Hey everyone, Dave here from BC Bushcraft. Today's a day for exploring. I'm out here with Molly and I'm trying to just go into some crown land just to scope out some areas and basically I'm just going to make a fire, cook up some food, and we're just going to go explore the forest for a few hours today while I have some free time. So I hope you enjoy the trip and we'll see if we can find some cool places. Check out the size of this arbutus tree. It is massive. This is a really big tree for, I don't know, arbutus. Haven't seen many this big. But basically arbutus are they're a coastal tree that only really exists on the coastlines. And I'll talk about it more maybe in camera, that'd probably help. But yeah, arbutus trees like this one here, the bark peels off of them and it actually shows their cambium layer. And they're very beautiful trees, and I'm pretty sure they're protected species. They only exist on the coastlines of the islands and the coastline of British Columbia. And some people might call it madrone, or they're similar species. Right now, this plot of crown land that I'm actually exploring, it actually meets up with the east coast of Vancouver Island, and you can look over the water and see Salt Spring Island. So if you want to like Google map where I am, I'm in a patch of crown land that I can actually get to the water, but it's probably like a cliff, I'm assuming. And that's why there's a lot of arbutus trees in this grove of woods. Usually you won't see them. If you're more into the island or interior, they kind of stick to a range along the coastline where the environment suits them the best. And here's a nice example of a big leaf maple in the forest, and I think they're one of the coolest trees to see in the forest because they totally dominate a certain section, and they tend to branch out into big splays of branches and usually separate into, they're not a straight tree, they definitely grow into V's and stuff like that. One of my favorite trees probably to see in the forest. This stump right here is a really good example of where you might find some fat wood. You got some parts here that are sticking up out of a rotted log, which is a Douglas fir. Douglas fir is the type of fat wood that I find on Vancouver Island. And this is a really big indicator that there is fat wood. So this whole section might be fat wood. This piece here might be fat wood. I'm just going to try and break it off. It's a little bit rotted. But you can see, get a close up. You can see the fat wood in there. And obviously it smells really nice. But there's a lot of fat wood on Vancouver Island. And it's all over the place in all of these stumps. This whole piece is probably fat wood. Yeah, definitely. It's a solid piece. I'm gonna saw off a piece and then we'll test it out. Just so you can see that I'm not lying. Oh yeah, it's a nice piece. So I'll just quickly make up a few shavings of this fat wood and just show you how easy it is to light up. I don't have the best working surface right now. And then we'll just hit it with the ferro rod. Almost. There we go, we got a little bit of a flame. This stuff might be a little bit damp because it was on the top part of the fat wood, but I mean, it's still relatively easy to light once it gets going. And there's a lot of stuff around in my region of this. I mean, once you learn to identify fat wood, you find it everywhere. If you're on Vancouver Island and stuff, Douglas fir fat wood is all over the place, and it's a really easy fire lighting material. This stuff here is salal, and it often makes the ground cover for the forests in the Pacific Northwest. The salal berries are edible, and they're in season, I think at the end of summer or something like that. But you can also, apparently you can eat it as an appetite suppressant, and it also can make a spit poultice with the leaves. And then right beside it here we have dull Oregon grape, which is, a lot of people probably know the tall versions of Oregon grape, but you can eat the berries even though they're incredibly sour and bitter. Just don't eat too many of them because it could upset your stomach. And they're quite easily identifiable by just, the spiky points and stuff on the leaves. Well, I'm starting to see the water over here. I'm just wondering if we can get a view of it without it being too dangerous, because I'm pretty sure there's quite a steep drop off over here, and I don't want Molly getting too close to it. But it's a really beautiful day right now. The sun's out, and I'm totally in this little patch of forest by myself, and we'll see if we can get a view of the water and of Salt Spring Island over there. You having fun? Definitely a really cool spot. It's a little bit steep going down, so I probably won't try to get to the water's edge today. I don't have like a crazy amount of time. But I can see that there's definitely a way down there. I just don't want to bring Molly down there and chance anything at the moment. But it's a really gorgeous day. And that landmass over there, actually, that isn't Salt Spring. Salt Spring's over this way. That's actually part of the island. It's a really, really nice day, and I think it's about time to make a fire and get some food on the go. I'll probably just go back in the forest a little bit and look for a nice little spot to sit down and set up camp. Here's a nice outcrop of rock here. A nice big wall. That'd be a really good wind deflection. And I think I'll just put a fire right up against it, away from I think that's a Douglas fir tree over there. And then we have an arbutus tree over there. So I'll set it more over this way. Just clear out the ground and put some rocks down so I don't have to worry about forest fires or anything like that. Molly. This is actually a really good site for a fire. As soon as I kicked away all the duff and stuff, it wasn't very thick. It's actually quite thin. And I got right to the dirt. There's no roots or anything like that. So some of those things are, keep in mind when you're making fires. Don't have a fire too close to a tree, especially conifer trees and stuff. It's not safe. It's bad for the tree. You're burning their roots and stuff. And look for spots like this if you can. It's perfect. You got a huge natural shelter with the rock, and there's lots of rocks around here, and it's just a really good option for a fire. So you can kind of see here how I've set up those rocks. I found a really nice flat rock where I can get my fire on that base, just a small fire, a few little rocks to act as kind of heat deflection and stuff, keep the wind from blowing it in my face. And a nice little setup. Oh, time to go get some firewood now. Well, I don't really need a big supply of firewood, so there's this little I believe it's a hemlock. It could be a Pacific silver fir, but it's a tiny dead standing tree here. And I'll probably just harvest that, process it up into my firewood. Okay. Keeping all the branches off of it. That'll be my go-to as far as the kind of kindling part goes. And then I'll just use some whatever I want to start the fire. When it's split in half like this and you want to quarter it, I often choose to put my axe on the back side of the round part and have flat side down. That's just a preference of mine. I find that it works a little bit better than having it the other way around. And if you have the right technique and you've learned some lessons like I have no problem grabbing it like this and holding it like this, because when I strike down, I strike like this and I'm not going to pinch here. That's just from learning and practice basically, but you can always do it this way too, just in case, just to keep your fingers away. But I find that I get a lot more power and stuff if I hold it like this and I kind of throw both down and then I go axe in like that. So when you come in, it's in like this, not coming down like that, because then you might pinch your hand. Now I could obviously do these little parts with my axe, and it's probably a little bit better. But since I made this knife myself, and this is one of the first times I'm taking it out for a real test, I'm going to try knife splitting with it and just doing a few little things just to see how the tip holds up and things like that. So, I mean, I'd probably do this with an axe most of the time instead of doing it with the knife. It's just the same technique. And then little taps. Try to get it along the grain. You know, you just break off little pieces like that and you're good. In terms of building a fire, it's always good to have a couple baseboards. These will develop into coals to keep it off wet rock, wet ground, whatever. And you can kind of build it up as high as you want, depending on the fire you're creating and what you want to do with it. So I'm just doing some really basic cooking today. So all I'm going to be doing is that, and then using these sticks on some of my homemade fire lighting material that I'll bring out, and I'll just show you quickly. So I've been playing around with some different homemade fire lighting materials for a little bit at home. This happens to be some jute twine, Vaseline, and fatwood shavings mix. It's not my favorite one, but it definitely works as a fire lighting tool. So I'm just going to basically use it up, even though I found fatwood and I could easily do it without this thing. I'm basically going to use this guy up, or at least some of it, and get my fire going this way. I mean, if you guys are struggling for fire and you can't rely on yourself, why not just make some homemade fire starting material yourself from wax and, you know, whatever you can find, jute twine. You can make a lot of different fire lighting, homemade fire lighting. Stuff like this where you just have to pinch a little bit and then hit it with a ferro rod and it goes up in flames, no problem. If you have some fat wood available, you can mix in fat wood. You can do whatever you want, and it makes it really simple for your fire. Okay, so I'll take a nice chunk of the homemade fire lighting material. This is totally overkill, but I'll show you how easy stuff like this is to light and start your fire. You don't have to go in the woods and, you know, without any of this stuff. If you're beginning to start bushcraft, like things like this will save you a lot of headache. So all you have to do is find a fluffy area, light it up, throw your twigs on there. Those will burn no problem. Throw your bigger twigs on, like so. Make sure you put away your knife and your ferro rod. This will burn no problem. Move you over here. Maybe get a better view of this. Super simple, guys. It's not rocket science. It doesn't have to be rocket science. If it's wet conditions, you're obviously going to have a little bit of a harder time. Now that this fire is going, you can see that it's not producing too much smoke. That's from using dry tinder and taking a dead standing wood down instead of picking up something lying around here. Because it has been wet and it's a little bit wet. Even wood that might seem dry might have some moisture in it. Oh, because I'm making bannock, managed to find a V, even though it's a little bit rotten. And I'll try to make a little bit of a stand, a pole. Get it into a bit of a stake. That will probably do. Try not to break it. And then I have a green Douglas fir branch that I found on the ground that I will kind of shave up and wrap my bannock around it. Just have to remove the bark where I'm going to put the bannock. I don't actually have to carve the whole stick down. That's just to remove the bacteria that is on the bark. That's why it's a good idea to trim up anything that you're going to be cooking on. Something like this should work. That should do. Sorry, but the light is not the best at the moment. But basically, keep your bannock, you know, just where the flames are looking up to, where your hand can barely handle the heat, and try to rotate it. Make sure it doesn't really burn, and you should be pretty good. Mug and water bottle, and a spoon. The nice thing about having a rock as a base is you can easily put your pots and stuff like that on top of it. And I totally abandoned my little V-stick for the bannock and just started leaning against the rocks. And Molly's waiting for a little bite too. I'll give her some water soon. So I'm going to be cooking eggs while I'm at it. And I found this pan I actually got at a thrift store. And it's just a stainless steel pan without a handle, which is actually quite cool for the bushcraft stuff. So basically I just need to make a handle, and I just make a angular cut into the wood close to the end. Decent amount through, and then jam on your frying pan and you're good to go. It's time to cook up some eggs now. So I'll put some butter in the pan, and I'm not going to go light on it because it helps it not to stick. And then this is what I did with my eggs. I kind of cut up an egg carton and then I taped it up like that just so I wouldn't break them. And it seemed to work pretty good, because last time when I did my sole overnight I managed to break my eggs somehow, and it's not very fun. So I'm just going to melt the butter. And I'll probably end up eating the eggs first because they should be done before the bannock. Oh, running around trying to get this all filmed and stuff. It's definitely a bit of a hassle trying to film all this. And I only have a certain amount of time to be out here, so trying to get this done and, you know, eat some good food. So let's get those eggs on here. See if they sizzle. Definitely got some shell in there. Well, trying to film, I totally kicked my egg pan. Lost some egg, and then the handle came off, and I can't be bothered to try to put it back on. But I'm still trying to cook up eggs. And the bannock is getting nice and toasty. Overdone that side a little bit, but it's pretty good still. That's no problem, a little bit charred. And we'll get that coffee too. It should be good. Try not to rush when you're out here. That's all I can say. little bit of a scrambled egg with what eggs I have left. What's left of my eggs is done. It looks pretty damn good. So I'm gonna dig into this, and obviously Molly wants some too. Over here. Over here. You have to sit. You gotta sit. What do good girls do? What do good girls do? Yeah. There we go. Well, unfortunately, my time here is cut short by about an hour. But that's okay. At least I got to get out today, cook some food on the fire, make some coffee, hang out with Molly. This is coffee. You don't like coffee. Get out of there. No. And I'm really happy that I found this spot. It's super nice. Very nice and peaceful. It's not totally out of the way, but it definitely works for like a nice day trip. And it's right by the water and has a great view. So you can't really ask for much more as far as a day trip goes, where you just find a place to hang out. And this rock is really nice. Maybe I'll come here and build some fire reflectors, set up a little bit of a base camp that, you know, it's not too intrusive, just a little place to sit maybe, and make the fire pit a little bit better. But I really do like this spot, and it's cool. This was definitely a really awesome adventure. And, ooh, my bannock might be ready. I'll probably give it a little bit longer. It feels a little doughy in areas, so. Oh, that's nice. Nice cup of coffee, too. So I hope you learned a few things from this video. Probably just eat my bannock, stomp out the fire, put some water on it, and then head back. But I hope you like this video. This is Dave from BC Bushcraft. Hope you guys have a good day. Please comment, subscribe, like, all of those things. And until the next video,